Can we eliminate the HIV epidemic?
It's a question that's been on the minds of researchers and healthcare professionals for decades.
Welcome to the HIV RNA Test Guide podcast.
Your source for clear and concise information about HIV.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Lenacapavir.
A groundbreaking HIV prevention drug.
It's been making waves in the scientific community.
Even being named Breakthrough of the Year by the journal Science.
So what makes Lenacapavir so groundbreaking?
Well, unlike other HIV drugs that target the virus itself,
Right.
Lenacapavir goes after its protective shell.
Its protective shell?
Yeah, it's called the capsid protein.
Oh, okay.
It's like the armor that surrounds the virus.
Interesting. So how does that actually work?
By disrupting this shell,
Mm-hmm.
Lenacapavir basically prevents the virus from replicating.
Ah, so it can't make copies of itself.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so effective.
And how effective are we talking?
The clinical trial data is incredibly promising.
Okay, tell me more.
We're seeing efficacy rates upwards of 96%, and in some cases, even 100%.
Those numbers sound almost too good to be true.
I know, right?
But what do they mean for people in the real world?
Well, it means
Yeah.
we could be looking at a future
Yeah.
where HIV transmission rates plummet.
Especially in communities that have been hit hardest by the virus.
Absolutely.
And that's a big deal. Now, these trials, they weren't just limited to a specific group of people, were they?
No, not at all.
Like in terms of demographics?
They included cisgender men,
Okay,
transgender men, transgender women,
got it.
and even gender non-binary individuals.
That's fantastic.
Making it one of the most inclusive studies we've seen for an HIV prevention medication.
And it wasn't just diverse in terms of who participated, but where these trials took place as well, right?
You're exactly right.
Like geographically.
They were conducted across multiple continents,
Wow.
from Argentina to Thailand to South Africa.
So we're getting a much better understanding of how this drug might work in different populations all over the world.
Exactly. A global perspective is so important.
Now, I know the current standard for HIV prevention is daily oral PEP like Truvada.
Right.
Where does Lenacapavir fit in?
So one of the biggest advantages of Lenacapavir is that it's a twice-yearly injection,
Oh, wow.
which is a game changer for people who struggle with taking a daily pill,
You know, I can see that.
whether it's due to forgetfulness or just the inconvenience.
Yeah, remembering to take a pill every single day
I know.
can be a challenge for anyone.
Exactly.
And we know that in the real world, not everyone sticks to that daily PEP routine perfectly.
Unfortunately not.
I mean, life happens.
Studies have shown that in some cases, the effectiveness of daily PEP drops because of missed doses.
And I imagine there's also a stigma associated with taking a daily pill for HIV prevention.
Oh, absolutely, especially for women in certain cultures.
So Lenacapavir could be a real solution for people facing those barriers.
It has the potential to be.
So it's not just about how effective the drug itself is, but how it fits into people's lives
Exactly. It's about giving individuals more options
to protect themselves.
in a way that works for them.
And, you know, that's what's generating so much excitement
It is.
about the potential impact of Lenacapavir, particularly in areas hardest hit by HIV,
Yeah, I'm thinking of sub-Saharan Africa.
where the burden of the disease is immense.
It's a region that accounts for a significant majority of people living with HIV globally.
So if we could bring a long-acting, highly effective prevention method like Lenacapavir to that region,
Right.
it could be transformative.
Potentially.
But let's be real.
Sure.
There are challenges, right?
Of course.
Like the cost of Lenacapavir.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We've heard concerns about that.
It's currently priced pretty high for HIV treatment in the U.S.,
Oh, yeah.
over $42,000 per year.
Wow. That's a stark contrast to oral PAP,
It is.
which can be less than $4 per month.
A significant difference, for sure.
So how do we make sure that this incredible treatment is accessible to the people who need it most,
That's the million-dollar question.
especially in areas with limited resources?
Research suggests that for a pre-P medication to be truly affordable in places like South Africa, it would need to be significantly cheaper,
How much cheaper are we talking?
potentially under $54 per year.
Wow. So affordability is key.
It's a major hurdle.
But what about other potential obstacles to widespread access?
Well, even if we overcome the cost issue,
Yeah.
there's still the challenge of infrastructure.
Ah, I see.
We need to make sure that healthcare systems in low and middle income countries
Right.
have the capacity to distribute and administer Lenacapavir effectively.
And that means?
Investing in training for healthcare workers.
Okay.
Establishing efficient supply chains.
Got it.
and creating community-based distribution programs.
So it's a multifaceted approach
Absolutely.
involving governments, pharmaceutical companies,
Yeah.
international organizations all working together
It'll take a collaborative effort to overcome these challenges.
to ensure that this innovation reaches everyone who can benefit from it.
That's the goal.
Now, I know Lenacapavir is already approved for treatment here in the U.S.,
That's right.
but what about for prevention?
So it's currently FDA approved in the United States for treating multi-drug resistant HIV.
Okay.
But for prevention, we're still waiting.
So what's the timeline looking like for that?
Gilead Sciences.
The company that developed Lenacapavir.
Right. They're actively pursuing global regulatory filings for its use in preventing HIV.
So there's hope on the horizon.
Absolutely. They're aiming to launch Lenacapavir for prevention by 2025.
Okay.
Of course, that could change depending on regulatory approvals and other factors.
But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It is.
Right.
Especially for those of you who like to stay up to date on the latest in HIV prevention.
Now, while we wait for Lenacapavir to potentially become available for prevention,
Yes.
let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. What does the development of this drug tell us about the future of HIV prevention and treatment?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Lenacapavir's success could pave the way for a whole new generation of long-acting medications. Imagine the possibilities, not just for HIV prevention,
Yeah.
but for other infectious diseases or even chronic conditions.
So this could be a model for developing new preventative treatments across a wide range of health concerns.
Certainly possible.
And if we can effectively reduce new HIV infections
Right.
with a long-acting preventative like Lenacapavir,
Exactly.
that brings us closer to the ultimate goal,
Which
ending the HIV epidemic.
a goal that for so long felt so far off.
It's amazing to think how far we've come since the early days of the epidemic.
It really is.
So much progress has been made in treatment and prevention.
And Lenacapavir represents another huge leap forward.
It gives us a real reason to believe that a future without HIV is within reach.
It does.
Before we move on, I want to ask, what are the key takeaways for our listeners so far?
The main takeaway is that Lenacapavir represents a major breakthrough in HIV prevention.
Okay.
Its high efficacy,
Yeah.
combined with its long-acting formulation,
Right.
and its potential to address those issues of adherence and stigma, make it a really promising tool.
It does feel like a turning point in the fight against HIV.
It does.
But as we move forward,
Yeah,
it's crucial that we don't lose sight of the challenges.
absolutely.
We need to ensure that this innovation reaches the people who need it most,
You're right.
regardless of where they live or their socioeconomic status.
We can't let cost be a barrier to preventing new HIV infections.
This is where advocacy and global cooperation are so important.
Absolutely.
We need to work together to ensure equitable access to this life-saving medication.
I completely agree.
It's not just about the science.
Right.
It's about social justice
Yes.
and making sure everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life.
That's what it's all about. Absolutely. It really is about recognizing that health is a human right.
Yeah.
And access to life-saving medications like Lenacapavir should be available to everyone.
Not just a privileged few.
Exactly.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that Gilead Sciences is pursuing those regulatory filings
Right.
for Lenacapavir as an HIV prevention method.
Yes.
What else is happening, like behind the scenes, in terms of research and development?
One exciting area of research is exploring Lenacapavir in combination with other long-acting medications.
Okay, interesting.
The goal is to create a single injection that could provide both HIV treatment and prevention.
A single injection
Yeah,
for both treatment and prevention.
that's the idea.
Wow.
That would be a game changer.
It would?
Think about it.
Yeah.
It could simplify treatment regimens for those living with HIV
Okay.
and offer a more comprehensive approach to prevention.
So not only are we talking about potentially preventing new infections, but also making life easier for people who are already living with HIV.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It is. It really speaks to the commitment of these researchers to find innovative solutions.
To address the many challenges of HIV.
Yeah,
That's really inspiring to see that level of dedication.
it is.
Are there any other research avenues being explored with Lenacapavir?
Well, there's some fascinating research investigating whether Lenacapavir could actually play a role in curing HIV.
A cure.
Yeah, it's still early days.
Right.
But the idea is that by targeting the HIV capsid,
Okay.
Lenacapavir might be able to help eliminate those latent HIV reservoirs in the body.
Those are the reservoirs that have been a major obstacle to a cure.
Exactly. They're really tricky.
A cure for HIV would be a monumental breakthrough.
It would be.
I mean, that would change everything.
It would. And while a cure is still a long way off,
Yeah.
research like this gives us hope
Yeah, it does.
and demonstrates the incredible potential of
To
Lenacapavir.
really transform how we approach HIV treatment and prevention.
Absolutely.
Now, this raises a question that I'm sure a lot of our listeners are wondering.
Okay, what's that?
If Lenacapavir does become widely available as a preventative measure,
Right.
will it completely replace daily oral PrEP,
Ah, that's a great question.
like Truvada?
You know, it's important to remember that daily oral PrEP, like Truvada, is still a highly effective option for many people.
Okay.
Lenacapavir may not be the right choice for everyone,
Right, of course.
and some individuals might prefer that familiarity and that routine of taking a daily pill.
So it's really about offering people different options
Exactly.
and empowering them to choose the prevention method that best suits their needs
It's about expanding choices
and preferences.
and tailoring prevention strategies to individual circumstances.
Yeah, what works for one person
Right.
might not work for another.
Exactly.
It's crucial that people have access to a variety of effective tools
To protect themselves from HIV.
and to feel good about those choices.
Right.
Now, we've talked a lot about the science and the potential impact of Lenacapavir,
We have.
but I want to bring it back to a personal level for a moment.
Okay.
How could this drug potentially change the lives of individuals, whether they're living with HIV or those who are at risk of infection?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, beyond just the medical aspects,
Yeah.
what about the emotional and social impact?
I think what's so fascinating about Lenacapavir
Yeah.
is its potential to significantly reduce the burden
Yeah.
of treatment and prevention.
Okay.
For someone at risk of HIV, imagine the freedom of knowing you're protected for 6 months with a single injection.
That's a long time.
Think about the reduced anxiety, the increased peace of mind that could bring.
Yeah, that could be life-changing for a lot of people.
It could, and for those already living with HIV,
Yeah.
Lenacapavir's long-acting nature could mean fewer doctor's appointments,
Okay.
less frequent medication refills,
Less hassle.
yeah, and ultimately less disruption to their daily lives.
So it's about simplifying HIV care
It is.
and making it a more seamless part of people's lives,
Right,
rather than this constant overwhelming focus
exactly. And by reducing that burden,
of treatment and prevention,
we can open up space for people to focus on their overall well-being,
to focus on their relationship.
your aspirations,
It's about empowering people to live full and meaningful lives.
regardless of their HIV status.
And that's what makes Lenacapavir so groundbreaking.
It has the potential to not only prevent new infections, but also to improve the quality of life.
For people living with HIV.
Yes, it's about fostering hope and resilience.
In the face of this challenging epidemic,
Exactly.
it's about recognizing that people are more than their HIV status.
Absolutely.
And empowering them to thrive.
Despite the challenges they face.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the impact of Lenacapavir on individuals,
We have.
but I want to zoom out a little bit
Okay.
and consider its implications for society as a whole.
That's an important perspective.
What could this mean on a larger scale?
Well, on the societal level, the widespread availability of Lenacapavir
Right.
could lead to a significant reduction in HIV transmission rates.
Okay.
And as new infections decline,
Yeah.
we could actually see a shift in the way society perceives HIV.
And those living with the virus.
Exactly. It could lead to less stigma,
Less discrimination.
more open conversations about HIV.
Greater acceptance.
Precisely. And as stigma diminishes, people might be more likely to get tested,
To access treatment early.
take steps to protect themselves and their partners.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is a ripple effect of positive change.
And that's what we want to see.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a more informed
More compassionate
and a more supportive environment.
for everyone affected by HIV.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what we're all striving for.
A society where HIV is no longer a source of fear
Of discrimination.
or shame.
But rather a manageable health condition that people can live with openly.
Without judgment.
It's a powerful vision
It is.
of a future where HIV is no longer this defining factor in people's lives,
Right.
but simply one aspect of their overall health and well-being.
Exactly.
And while we still have a long way to go
Yeah,
to achieve that vision,
we do.
Lenacapavir offers a glimmer of hope
It does.
and a reminder that progress is possible.
Absolutely.
It's a testament to human ingenuity.
And the unwavering commitment of those researchers.
The healthcare professionals, the advocates.
To find solutions that can change the course of this epidemic.
And we can all play a part in this.
We can.
It's not just up to the scientists and the doctors.
Right.
Each of us can contribute.
To creating a more supportive and inclusive environment for people living with HIV.
Whether it's through education,
Advocacy,
or simply offering a listening ear.
our actions can make a difference.
Now, as we delve deeper into this conversation, I want to talk about a crucial aspect that we haven't fully explored yet.
Okay.
The importance of equitable access to Lenacapavir.
That's essential.
We've touched upon those cost barriers, the infrastructure challenges.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, what are some specific strategies
Okay.
that could help ensure that this groundbreaking medication
Yeah.
reaches the people who need it most?
Especially in those regions with limited resources.
Exactly.
That's a critical question, and it demands a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
One key strategy involves advocating for affordable pricing.
Right. We've got to make sure that it's accessible.
We need to work with pharmaceutical companies,
Adherence.
international organizations,
To ensure that Lenacapavir is priced fairly.
especially in those low and middle income countries.
We've seen how the cost of medications can be a major barrier.
A major barrier to access.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So addressing that head on is crucial.
It is.
What else?
Another essential strategy is strengthening healthcare infrastructure. In those resource-limited settings,
What does that look like?
it means investing in training.
For healthcare workers.
Yes, ensuring a reliable supply chain for medications.
Right. We've got to make sure the medications can actually get to the people who need them.
And creating community-based distribution programs that can reach people in those remote or underserved areas.
So it's a comprehensive approach.
It is.
It's not just about making the medication affordable,
Right.
but also making sure that the systems are in place
Yeah.
to actually deliver it effectively.
Exactly. It's about addressing those systemic barriers.
That prevent people from getting the care they need.
Yes, it's about recognizing that access to healthcare is a fundamental human right
Yeah.
and working together to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from innovations like Lenacapavir.
It's about moving beyond just the talk about equity
Right.
and taking those concrete steps to make it a reality,
To create a more just and equitable world,
where healthcare is accessible to all.
regardless of their location or their socioeconomic status.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about the personal impact of Lenacapavir again.
All right.
We've discussed the potential benefits,
Yes.
but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on how this drug could change lives on a deeper, more emotional level.
Okay.
For someone living with HIV
Yeah.
or someone at risk of infection,
Right.
what can the availability of this long-acting preventative mean?
I think for someone living with HIV,
Yeah.
the long-acting nature of Lenacapavir could be profoundly liberating.
In what way?
Imagine not having to think about taking medication every day.
Yeah.
That could significantly reduce stress and anxiety.
It's about reclaiming a sense of normalcy
It is.
and control of your life.
And for someone at risk of HIV,
Yeah.
knowing they can protect themselves with a single injection every 6 months could be incredibly empowering.
It's about shifting the focus from fear and worry to confidence.
To self-efficacy.
Absolutely. And by reducing the burden of treatment and prevention,
Right.
we can free people up to focus on things that really matter.
Like their passions, their relationships, their overall well-being.
It's about allowing people to live full and meaningful lives.
Unconstrained by the demands of HIV care.
It's about recognizing that people are more than their HIV status
Absolutely.
and empowering them to thrive despite the challenges they face.
And that's what makes Lenacapavir so groundbreaking.
It really is.
It has the potential to not only prevent new infections, but also to improve the quality of life for those living with HIV.
It fosters hope and resilience.
In the face of this epidemic.
It's incredible to think about the progress that's been made.
It is.
It's a testament to human ingenuity.
See the unwavering commitment of researchers, healthcare professionals, and advocates
who are working tirelessly to find solutions to this global challenge.
to change the course of the epidemic.
And it's important to remember that we can all be a part of that change.
We can.
It's not just up to the experts. Each of us can contribute to creating a more supportive and inclusive environment for people living with HIV.
Absolutely, whether it's through education advocacy or simply offering a listening ear, Our actions can make a difference.
Now, as we continue this deep dive into Lenacapavir,
Yes.
I want to touch on a topic that often comes up when we discuss new medical breakthroughs:
Okay, what's that?
the potential for unintended consequences.
That's a valid point.
While the benefits of Lenacapavir are clear,
They are.
are there any concerns about potential downsides or unforeseen challenges?
I think it's always wise to consider potential unintended consequences when we're evaluating new medical interventions.
Of course.
One concern that some experts have raised is the possibility of viral resistance developing.
Resistance.
Yeah, if lenacapavir is not used appropriately.
Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure.
What are the specific concerns about resistance?
Well, one concern is that if individuals don't adhere to the recommended dosing schedule, it could create an environment where the virus has more opportunities to mutate,
To change.
to develop resistance to the drug.
That makes sense. So making sure people stick to the treatment plan is really important.
It is. Adherence is key.
And that's where education comes in.
Exactly. Healthcare providers need to really emphasize the importance of following that prescribed dosing schedule.
Right, and addressing any concerns or barriers that patients might have.
About sticking to that schedule.
It's about empowering individuals to take an active role in their own care.
Absolutely. And another concern is the potential for lenacapavir to be used inappropriately
Okay.
in combination with other medications.
What do you mean?
For example, if someone is taking other drugs that interact negatively with lenacapavir,
Oh, I see.
it could lead to some adverse effects.
Or it could reduce the effectiveness of the treatment.
Right, so clear communication between healthcare providers and patients
About all medications being used.
is essential.
It's crucial that healthcare providers have a complete picture of a patient's medical history
Of all their current medication.
before prescribing Lenacapavir.
Absolutely.
And patients need to be upfront with their providers,
About any other drugs they might be taking?
including over-the-counter meds or even supplements.
Yes. It's a two-way street.
Open and honest communication is so important.
It's at the heart of effective healthcare.
Now, while we're on the topic of unintended consequences,
Yes.
I want to touch on something that's often overlooked.
What's that?
When we talk about new medical technologies,
Okay.
the potential impact on healthcare systems.
Right, especially in those resource-limited settings.
Exactly.
That's a valid point.
So while Lenacapavir offers incredible promise,
It does.
its implementation could put a strain on healthcare systems.
That are already struggling.
Yeah, we have to be mindful of that.
We do.
What are some of those potential strains?
Well, a need for trained healthcare workers to administer the injections.
Right.
The logistics of making sure there's a reliable supply chain.
To get the medication where it needs to go.
And the costs associated with providing that ongoing monitoring and care.
All of that could be challenging.
They could, especially in those resource-limited settings.
So it's not just about developing the technology.
Right.
It's about making sure the healthcare infrastructure is there to support it.
To support its effective and equitable distribution.
That's a big task.
It requires careful planning, resource allocation,
And
collaboration between governments, healthcare providers, and community organizations.
It's a team effort.
It is.
It's about recognizing that access to healthcare is complex.
Yes.
It's not just about having the medications available.
Right.
It's also about having a strong and supportive healthcare system in place
Absolutely. We need a holistic approach
that addresses those social, economic, and structural factors.
that influence health outcomes.
Now, I want to bring our conversation back to the personal level again.
Okay.
We've talked extensively about the scientific aspects of Lenacapavir. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how this drug could impact the lives of individuals on a deeper, more emotional level.
Okay.
For someone living with HIV or at risk of infection,
Right.
what could the availability of this long-acting preventative mean for their sense of self, for their relationships, for their overall well-being?
That's a profound question.
It is something to really think about.
It is, I think, for someone living with HIV.
Yes.
Knowing they can protect their partners from transmission with a single injection every 6 months
Yeah.
could be incredibly liberating.
That's a huge weight off their shoulders,
It is. It could alleviate so much fear and anxiety.
especially around intimacy.
Yes, and it could foster a deeper sense of connection and trust in relationships.
It's about removing a barrier
a barrier to intimacy
and allowing people to experience love and connection.
without the shadow of HIV hanging over them.
Exactly. And for someone at risk of HIV,
Right.
the availability of a long-acting preventative could give them a profound sense of agency.
Of control over their sexual health.
They can make choices that align with their values and desires.
Without the constant worry of potential exposure.
It's about shifting from a place of fear and avoidance
To a place of confidence and self-efficacy.
and, on a broader level.
Yeah.
I think the widespread adoption of Lenacapavir could really help reduce the stigma associated with HIV.
I agree. As more people embrace this preventative measure,
Right.
it could become more normalized to talk openly about HIV prevention and sexual health.
So we're not just talking about protecting individuals.
Right.
We're talking about changing attitudes,
About creating a more open, accepting, and supportive environment.
where people feel comfortable talking about their sexual health
And seeking the care they need.
without fear of judgment or discrimination.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what we're striving for.
A society where HIV is no longer shrouded in secrecy and shame.
But approached with knowledge, compassion, and a commitment to creating a healthier and more equitable future for all.
It's a powerful vision. And I believe we can achieve it
I think so too.
through research innovation and a collective commitment to social justice.
Absolutely.
Now, as we wrap up this segment of our deep dive,
Yes.
I want to pose a question to our listeners.
Okay. What's that?
We've talked about the science, the potential benefits, the challenges.
Right.
What does this all mean for you personally?
That's a great question for each of us to consider.
How might Lenacapavir's availability impact your own life?
Your relationships, your community,
What conversations might it spark?
what actions might it inspire?
These are questions worth exploring.
They are.
And as you think about these questions, remember, you're not alone.
There are resources available.
Healthcare professionals to guide you.
A community ready to support you.
Stay informed.
Stay engaged.
Stay hopeful.
The fight against HIV continues.
But with innovations like Lenacapavir, the future looks brighter than ever.
Absolutely, knowledge is power.
And by understanding these advancements in HIV prevention and treatment,
We can all play a role in shaping a healthier future for ourselves and our communities.
and remember, if you have any questions or concerns about HIV prevention or treatment,
Don't hesitate to reach out to your healthcare provider.
they are your trusted allies in this journey.
And for more in-depth information on HIV and related topics,
Be sure to check out the HIV RNA Test Guide podcast
we're committed to providing you with the knowledge and resources you need.
to make informed decisions about your health and well-being.
We'll see you next time.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into Lenacapavir.
We have, from its unique mechanism to its potential impact on the HIV landscape.
But before we wrap things up,
Yes.
I want to touch on one more crucial aspect.
Okay.
The human side of this scientific breakthrough.
Absolutely. It's essential to consider how these advancements actually translate into real-life experiences for individuals.
So let's talk about the potential impact of Lenacapavir on a personal level.
Okay.
How could this drug change the lives of those living with or at risk of HIV? Not just medically, but emotionally and socially.
I think the potential for Lenacapavir to alleviate a lot of the burden associated with HIV prevention and treatment is huge.
Absolutely, like that freedom from daily pills or the anxiety of potential exposure.
Exactly.
That could be so empowering.
It could. For someone at risk of HIV, knowing they have 6 months of protection with a single injection
Wow.
could bring such a sense of confidence and peace of mind.
Yeah, it could allow them to really engage in relationships and intimacy.
With less fear and worry.
Absolutely. And for those already living with HIV,
Yeah.
this long-acting approach means fewer clinic visits.
Less frequent medication refills.
It could be a huge relief.
It could. Less disruption to their daily routines.
So it's about making HIV care a more integrated part of everyday life,
Right, rather than it being this constant separate focus.
which could lead to all sorts of positive outcomes.
It could improve mental health
Better adherence to treatment.
and a greater sense of overall well-being.
I'm also curious about the broader societal impact. If Lenacapavir becomes widely available,
Yeah.
could we see a shift in how society perceives HIV?
I think that's definitely possible. As Lenacapavir potentially becomes more commonplace,
Right.
it could contribute to a destigmatization of HIV.
So we're not just talking about individual benefits.
We're not.
We're talking about potential positive social change as well.
Exactly. Increased knowledge and acceptance of preventative measures like Lenacapavir
Okay.
could lead to more open conversations about HIV and sexual health,
And that could encourage more people to get tested,
to seek early intervention,
to feel more comfortable talking about these issues.
to break down those barriers of fear and judgment.
That's the ripple effect we definitely want to see.
It is.
Now, you mentioned earlier that research is ongoing
Yes.
to explore using Lenacapavir in combination with other long-acting medications.
Right.
What's the ultimate goal there?
The vision is to create a single injection
Single injection.
that could provide both HIV treatment and prevention.
Wow. So one injection could do both.
That's the idea.
That would simplify things immensely.
It would simplify regimens and potentially offer even greater protection.
That would be a remarkable achievement.
It would be a game changer, not just for individuals.
But for healthcare systems worldwide.
Absolutely.
It's incredible to think about the possibilities.
It is.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Lenacapavir,
Yeah.
it strikes me that we're really talking about more than just a new drug. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift.
A shift in how we approach HIV prevention and care.
Exactly.
I think that's a great way to put it. Lenacapavir represents a significant step forward,
In the fight against HIV.
offering hope for a future where this virus no longer holds the power to define lives or limit possibilities.
And as we look ahead to that future,
Yes,
it's crucial to remember that scientific advancements alone aren't enough.
you're right.
We also need to address those social and economic factors.
That contribute to the spread of HIV.
Ensuring equitable access to prevention treatment and care for everyone.
Absolutely, it's a collective effort.
It requires all of us to be informed, engaged, and compassionate.
Well said.
I want to thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Lenacapavir.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a fascinating and thought-provoking conversation.
I agree.
And to our listeners,
Thank you for tuning in to the HIV RNA Test Guide podcast
we hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights.
and a sense of hope for the future of HIV prevention and treatment.
Remember, knowledge is power.
And by staying informed and engaged,
We can all contribute to a world where HIV is no longer a global health crisis.
we can.